Yes, guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope all is going good. Now, today's topic is going to be multiculturalism has failed in the United Kingdom. Peter Whittle is going to be talking at the Oxford Union. He's going to be discussing recent events that have unfolded these past couple of weeks in relation to the grooming gangs in the United Kingdom. And he's going to be talking about illegal immigration and mass immigration pouring into the United Kingdom via the borders, the weak borders, and how it's leading to, less cohesion within societies. And people aren't even trying to, integrate. People are not trying to assimilate, integrate into society. They're coming over with their own culture. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to have this culture. I'm going to maintain this culture. When I get here, I'm going to identify and I'm going to be part of, a group that share my culture, which doesn't share the British Western culture. He's going to be talking about all the problems that Britain has undergone these past couple of weeks, months, and even years. He's dating it back a few decades now. So yeah, he's talking about back in the day when, the people had trust in the government, and now, trust in the government is at an all-time low. But guys, as he's making his speech, what we're going to see is hecklers trying to cut him off several times. I believe these are wokies, so these are woke leftist progressives and Muslims in the crowd, in the audience. They're going to try to cut him off many times. They're going to try to impede, his trail of thoughts. They're going to try to make him start. They're doing everything they can to make him feel uncomfortable whilst he's making his speech, but he's having none of it. Peter Whittle's head is, he's focused. And he's just shutting it all down. He's like, no, I'm going to say what I need to say. And that's that. If you have any objections, come to me after, we can discuss them. But for now, I need to say it. The public need to receive this. And I've been watching a lot of his videos on the New Culture Forum. And he's been chopping it down. This isn't a guy that's just coming and just talking, out of his backside. He's been having guests on. And, he's been really trying to find out what's really been going on. What's the fundamental reasons that the establishment / Labour government that's in office now are trying so hard to please the Muslim community at the expense of the native population, at the expense of every other people that live in the United Kingdom, Christians, Jewish people, Jews, Hindus, atheists, why the Muslim population?
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's an honour and a privilege. It's my very first time.
Already, guys, I'm not going to keep pausing it, but already we see the wokeism, on stage. There's no diversity there. It's literally just, wokeness on stage, So what's going on there, I do not know. But anyway, let's carry on.
The motion before us, as we now know, is that this House believes that multiculturalism has no future in the UK. Well, it does indeed have no future in the UK, but also it shouldn't have a future. We should not seek, I believe, to keep alive a doctrine which I believe has done nothing but harm to this country. An ideology which has been imposed largely from above, which has relied on lies, distortions, and cover-ups to keep it in place. It's a doctrine which has compromised our free speech and left our society increasingly fragmented, indeed segregated along parallel lines, and troubled, I would say now, to the point of collapse. Multiculturalists have always talked about building a community of communities. Now, a community of communities might be many things, but what it is not is one nation, and certainly not a united nation. They've also always preached that cultures were of equal value and that they should be celebrated and respected as such. The political, media, and cultural elites have enforced a narrative based on this, which I believe sprung in part from their basic cultural self-loathing and their distaste for the very concept of the nation or nationhood and the British nation in particular. Celebrating British culture was never ever part of the plan. Indeed, it was antipathetic to the multiculturalists' agenda. Diversity is our greatest strength, is multiculturalism's mantra. You deny that at your peril. But I'm sure you must be familiar with the work of Robert Putnam, hardly some right-wing headbanger. He is a left-leaning sociologist in America, wrote a brilliant thesis called Bowling Alone. And he found that the greater the amount of diversity in a society, then the lessening of social capital there was and the decline in trust, not just between groups, but actually within groups too. I would say that that is really the situation that we are facing now. We have gone from what was an extraordinarily high trust society to a low trust society. And that's happened within one generation. So what really has it meant when I refer to this doctrine being imposed from above and allowing almost no criticism? Well, we need look no further than the appalling news which we have been discussing over the past few weeks. The nationwide systematic rape, torture and abuse of thousands upon thousands of white working class girls by mainly Pakistani Muslim gangs. Not yet, has blown apart the pieties and the dogmas of multiculturalism in Britain. Now, thanks to the interventions of Elon Musk, the world now knows of what must be this country's biggest racially aggravated sexual crime. No, not yet.
Can't even let him get his point now. They have to cut him off. They just have to shun him. They have to know we need to control this. Can you see it? These woke liberals, or it must be a Muslim guy, so yeah, crazy.
These girls were chosen because they were white by men who consider them to be subhuman. Now, from the police to the social services, from Parliament to the media, these shocking crimes were covered up largely to keep the multicultural narrative in place.
Correct.
As one former Labour MP put it a few years ago, there was the feeling that we shouldn't rock the multicultural boat. Another Labour MP more crudely agreed with the statement a few years back that the victims should, quote, shut up for the sake of diversity. Now, the enormity of the rape gangs issue is such that I believe it will force a complete reassessment of recent British history. The need to enforce its official narrative, the multiculturalism and unfettered mass immigration are wholly beneficial to this society, has shaped our public policy and our politics for the whole of this century so far. And in doing so, it has transformed our physical, cultural and political landscape. What we are left with now is a situation, I believe, which calls into question the very legitimacy of our democracy and indeed of the British state. In reality, cultural practices and some beliefs that are totally at odds with our society have been tolerated for too long or indeed ignored. Now, just to take one example, my organisation, the New Culture Forum, about 10 years ago did a report into FGM, female genital mutilation. This is, I hope you would agree, a barbaric practice. We established that tens of thousands of young girls in the UK were at risk or indeed have suffered this disgusting form of what is child abuse. I'm sure that number is even greater now. Now, FGM was specifically made a crime back in the 1980s. So how many convictions have there been? 2. Just 2.
Mad.
in 40 years. As with the cover-up of the rape gangs, the only conclusion to be drawn is that the only conclusion to be drawn is that this disgusting practice went unpunished so as not to upset the narrative that was in place, and also, of course, out of a fear of a career-ending racism. That fear of being called racist has been a powerful tool with which to halt any criticism. It is all-pervading and has struck at the heart of our cherished freedom of speech. Those who championed multiculturalism in the early days would openly and quite happily say that in order for it to work, some restrictions on what could and couldn't be said would have to be operated. But what this has meant in practice since then is a massive and ongoing expansion in hate speech laws and the introduction recently of those Orwellian-sounding so-called non-crime hate incidents. The everyday saying, which I heard from being a child upwards, "It's a free country," you never hear anymore, and with good reason. And this restriction is about to get worse. The all-party parliamentary group's new definition of Islamophobia, a made-up nonsensical term anyway,
Facts.
has been adopted by the Labour Party and will, in all likelihood, come into law. What this will do, it will effectively outlaw all criticisms of Islam and introduce what is, in essence, a blasphemy law. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to me that is the perfect example of how the requirements of multiculturalism undermine the established traditions and values of this nation. So, what of the future as referred to in this motion? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd say it's very bleak. We have in recent years seen increasing sectarian disorder, as witnessed in both Leicester and London. Foreign disputes have effectively been imported and now played out in this land. And last year's general election was a landmark in it saw the first election to Parliament of 4 sectarian Muslim MPs. But if the disaster, which is what I think it is, of multiculturalism is to be thrown into the garbage can of history, as I believe it should be, what should be in its place? Well, the answer that we mostly hear, and we've heard it tonight, is that we need integration. As things stand, this is entirely implausible. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, integration, but it's simply implausible now. It is impossible to integrate up to 1 million new people a year from very, very different cultures into this country. And with established large communities already existing here, there is virtually no need or indeed incentive to integrate. And as we now know, since the mass pro-Palestinian marches after October 7th, there are many people who have no intention of integrating and indeed despise what we are. So I would say two things. Latest up, I would say two things. One, if we are to have any hope of changing the situation, we have to have a halt to any further mass migration. And number two, what I need, and this is a tall order, what I want to see, what I hope, is that we have an entirely new, fresh establishment, one that believes in Britain, is not ashamed of Britain, has not got a distaste for nationhood, believes in the glories of Western civilization. That is what we have. Now, I can only hope. But when I look and see what has happened in America the past week, I have some hope. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Peter Whittle, what are you doing? Oh man, he was shaking everyone up at the Oxford Union, but he had to say it for how it was, you know, and how it is. You know, I've been watching, you know, quite a few of his videos, you know, the New Culture Forum, and he's been going in depth on this matter, like what's been going on. Why is democracy being ripped away from us? Why is democracy only, you know, favoritizing one group of people, just the Muslims? You know, they're pushing for things and they're getting things handed to them. you know, and Labour wanna, you know, sooner or later, you know, they're just suggesting it now. We've looked into Tahir Ali, we've looked into other MPs in Parliament proposing blasphemy laws, and soon, before you know it, there will be a blasphemy law. So you think now it's bad with, you know, going on Facebook, on Instagram, X, you know, tweeting things, you know, making posts. When that blasphemy law comes in, I'm telling you, there's going to be a Muslim police on the internet reporting things to the government. And government are just going to be coming to your house, government agencies and police and nurses and doctors, to see if you have a mental health issue for saying that about Islam. You know, it's not going to apply to Christianity. You know, so people like me are not going to be protected under the blasphemy law. Because as we see, everyone disrespects Jesus Christ. As we see, everyone can get disrespected. We've seen so much anti-Semitism, you know, in the UK, in the West. You know, remember in Australia just a few weeks ago, you know, nurses saying that they were, you know, they were offing Jewish patients because of what's going on in, you know, in the Middle East. Crazy. Insane. Honestly, so it's not going to benefit people like me. It's not going to benefit people like Jewish people, atheists, natives. Not going to benefit you Hindus. Nope. It's going to benefit the Muslim community. And he's just bringing this up, honestly. So, Britain, man, just save yourself, honestly. And this is what I'm saying. Like, when I see Rupert Lowe and I see, you know, Nigel Farage and I see, you know, these guys bickering over things like this, you know, I'm like, guys, this isn't the time to do that. Honestly, you guys need to put that aside. Put pride, ego aside. This is the UK. Are you trying to save the country? Or are you trying to score political points? Oh, Rupert Lowe said something. It might hurt our party. Oh, let's put him, you know, on the naughty step. Let's carry on without him. Let's badmouth him. It's silly. It's silly. Look at the greater good. Oh my days. You know, you need to, you know, that's one thing the UK does lack. It lacks, you know, supporting one another. I'll definitely say that. In America, they've hit Trump with everything. All the establishment games have come out against Trump. And do you want to know what the MAGA crowd have done? Shrugged it off and said, yeah, we're still voting for him. We don't care. Criminal conviction, we couldn't care less. What he said 10 years ago, we couldn't care less. What he did 20 years ago, we couldn't care less. We're still voting for him in the next election. And that's what they did. And that's why he is president. You know, in the UK, someone does something slightly wrong, or just, this isn't even wrong, by the way, by Rupert Lowe. This is just allegations. Already, nope, take him to the side. No, he's saying something about me. No. Take him away from the party. You know, Reform can do without him. Ben Habib, no, don't worry about him. Come on, honestly. You know, we want to see, you know, the politics has to be more cohesive in relation to Reform UK, and they need to look at the bigger picture. Stop looking at the small picture and this nonsense, you know, fighting over crumbs. You know, there's a big picture. You know, UK is at stake here. And if you're serious about what you've been saying, then you'll put all of this behind you. You know, I'm even hearing that Nigel wants to open another political party and all of this. Ah, man, what are we gonna do? Anyway, guys, yeah, let's just see how it goes for these next couple of years. I'm going to be covering everything. But look, Peter Whittle, well done. You know, you said what you had to say. You know, you kept it real. And that's it. You know, if you're a Muslim watching that and you say, oh, he's racist or he's Islamophobia, which it's not a word. But if you say that to him, then you're not picking up what's really going on here. But if you're a Muslim and you can honestly say it, you know, like Andrew Tate said, you know, in his interview in Valuetainment, you know, because Andrew Tate is a Muslim, you know, he said that the Muslim community have to have a look inwards and say, no, we need to do better. We can't just keep on screaming Islamophobia. We need to do better. If you're a Muslim and you say we need to do better, I can respect that. But if you're a Muslim and you say, oh no, he's just Islamophobia, he's saying something I don't like, then you're absolutely part of the problem, you know. So yeah. But anyway, guys, that's a long outro. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you at the next video.